I never expected anyone to understand the quiet ache I carried around. Least of all the young man who entered our family when he married my daughter. Arham had always been polite, reserved, the kind of person who moved gently through a room as if trying not to disturb the air itself. I liked that about him. But I never thought our paths would cross in a way that changed both of us. It started on a late autumn evening. The house was too still after my daughter left for a work trip, and the silence seemed to expand with every passing hour. I stepped out into the backyard for air, wrapping my shawl around my shoulders. The sky was muted, the color of fading smoke, and the first bite of winter was beginning to show. I didn't realize Arham was already out there until I heard him quietly say, "You couldn't sleep either." I turned. He sat on the small bench by the old guava tree, elbows on his knees, face softly lit by the backyard light. Something about him seemed weighed down. "No," I answered. "Some nights feel heavier than others." He nodded without looking up, as though the words were too familiar. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It was the kind of silence that didn't need filling, the kind that simply existed between two people who didn't want to be alone with their thoughts. Eventually, he said, "I think I needed someone to talk to." The simplicity of it, the honesty, made me sit down beside him. Not close, just near enough for conversation. "What's troubling you?" I asked gently. He took a long breath. "I'm trying so hard to be good for everyone. For her, for the family, for my work. But sometimes I feel like I'm slipping, and no one notices." His voice wasn't shaking, but it held something deeper, like a tired note in a long song. I looked at him, really looked. "People notice," I said quietly. "They just don't always know how to ask." When he finally lifted his eyes to mine, something in his expression softened. Like someone finally letting themselves be understood. That night became the beginning of a strange, beautiful rhythm, one built on conversations that neither of us knew we needed. We spoke in safe spaces, the kitchen while preparing tea, the backyard when the world was quiet, the living room when the evening sunlight painted everything warm and gold. He told me about the pressure he felt to be perfect, to never disappoint. I told him about the years I spent hiding my own uncertainties behind a steady smile. Our stories ran parallel, different paths, same emotions. One evening, after work, he looked exhausted. I was preparing tea when he entered the kitchen and leaned against the counter, eyes downcast. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," he said quietly, "but it feels easier to breathe when I talk to you." His words were not romantic. They were human, real. A confession of relief. I handed him a cup. "Sometimes," I said, "we find comfort in unexpected places." We drank in silence. But it wasn't empty. It was warm. Over time, I became more aware of the small things. The way he relaxed when he heard my voice. The way he listened to my stories from years ago with genuine interest. The way our conversations felt like calm water after a long storm. One afternoon, a soft rain was falling outside. He found me sitting in the living room by the window, watching the droplets slide down the glass. "Do you ever think," he asked, taking the seat across from me, "that some people come into our lives to remind us of the parts of ourselves we forget?" His tone wasn't searching for romance or anything inappropriate. It was deep. "Yes," I replied. "I think we all need mirrors sometimes. People who reflect the quieter strengths in us." He looked relieved, like he'd been trying to name that feeling. "Talking to you feels like that," he said. "Like I'm allowed to be honest." A small warmth spread through me, not of attraction, but of purpose. It had been a long time since someone had looked at me not as a role mother-in-law, caretaker, but as a person. Our bond grew from that simple recognition. Some nights we talked about life choices, fears, dreams, the ones that often get buried under responsibilities. I learned he loved painting but stopped because he thought it wasn't practical, I told him. I used to write short stories and quietly gave it up after marriage. You should start again, he said, his voice earnest. And you should paint, I replied. He smiled, and for the first time in a while, I saw color in his expression. It remained that way, gentle, respectful, emotionally grounding. Nothing crossed boundaries. Nothing risked misunderstanding. The closeness we shared stayed within a safe space. An unspoken understanding of roles, respect, and the careful balance we maintained. One night, a storm rolled through the city. Power went out, plunging the house into darkness except for the dim light from a battery lantern. Arham found me sitting in the hallway with a book in my lap. "You're not scared of storms?" he asked, sitting a little distance away. "No," I said, smiling faintly. "Storms remind me that everything passes." He leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes. "I hope the things inside me pass too." "They will," I said softly. "You're not carrying them alone anymore." The lantern hummed faintly. The air smelled like wet earth. And in that simple moment, we were two people sharing a quiet truth. As days turned into weeks, I noticed changes in him. He walked lighter, smiled more openly, spoke with more confidence. He even brought home a small canvas and paint set. "I thought I'd try again," he said shyly. I felt proud, not of myself, of him, for choosing to return to something that made him feel alive. I also returned to writing, slowly at first, then with more freedom. And every now and then, he would ask, "What did you write today?" Life wasn't perfect. It never is. But our home felt warmer. When my daughter returned from her trip, she noticed the shift immediately. "You both look different," she said one evening at dinner. "Happier, more peaceful." We exchanged a brief, understanding glance. "We've just been talking a lot," I replied. It helped both of us. It was the truth. Our connection wasn't secret or forbidden, it was simply human. Two people learning to breathe again in a world that rarely slows down for anyone. As time went on, things settled into a natural balance. Arham still talked to me when he felt overwhelmed. But he also became more open with my daughter, more expressive. He painted often. I wrote daily. One morning, as he prepared to leave for work, he paused by the doorway. "I never thanked you," he said softly, "for listening, for seeing me. It changed more than you know." I smiled. Sometimes all someone needs is for their voice to matter. He nodded, and something like peace settled around him. When he left, I sat by the window, sunlight warming my face, and realized that the quiet ache I once carried had faded. Not because someone healed it for me, but because being truly heard allowed me to heal myself. Our bond remained, but it evolved gently, appropriately, beautifully. A reminder that meaningful connections can exist without crossing lines, without breaking trust, without stepping into places they shouldn't. We were simply two people who met each other at the right emotional moment. And sometimes, that alone can change an entire season of a life.